Today I'm going to make a video about the importance of hill running and why you should build it into your training schedule if you're planning on racing hills. This is a bit of a spontaneous video because I raced a 5-mile race on Tuesday night, which I ran in 34:15, which equates to about, I think it's about 6.5 minute mile, maybe 6.4, but probably 6.5. And basically, even though I'm quite fit cardio-wise at the moment, obviously I came back from injury, so I'm not quite as fit from that. But basically I had to adjust my stride quite a bit, and ended up, not feeling that confident in the race, just because I, had to tackle about 3 miles of inclination on quite an undulating route. So one of the important things about hill training is that, like I said, it kind of gives you a wake-up call and it breaks you out of your comfort zone. I generally do hill training maybe once a month. There's an area near me that I drive to and I will run laps around it and do hill training that way. But you can find like anywhere, with a steep hill, whether it's out in the forest or on the road or whatever, to train up and do your hill training on. But basically, if you're training for hills and you're wanting to race hills, you shouldn't go into it the way that I did, because this is the mistake that I made. Basically, for a bit of background, I've done quite a few races with hills. I ran Cotswold and Gloucester Marathon last year, which were really, really hilly. But just because I had that base of kind of training on the road, I just seemed to tackle it okay and I just seemed to handle them. But this race on Tuesday has been a real wake-up call to, get me to train a bit differently and break out of my comfort zone. So one of the things that I've learned with running up hills, this is something I learnt earlier on. I think maybe last year I ran a 10k, and there was a section of it uphill. Sometimes I seem to pass people up hills, but the majority of the time I feel like my pace dramatically slows. And one of the things I've learnt not to do, that I have read online, there seems to be conflicting advice about this, which there is about, a lot of things in running, which is again why I think that you should just do a bit of trial and error and see what works for you, and then work out your best way to tackle things, because what works for someone might not work for someone else. So one of the things that I've learned not to do with hills, for me, I don't feel like it works if you lean or bend into the hill. So for example, when I've talked in my other videos about keeping like a straight core line and a straight line through your core, when I've been actually leaning into hills when I'm running, so for example this for me is a straight posture, but when I'm leaning into hills I'm kind of sort of hunching over a bit, so when I'm going up the hill, when I'm leaning into it, it feels kind of good because you're going with the incline of the hill. But if you think about it realistically, if you're bending over, you're not really able, obviously, your top half is kind of travelling forward a bit, but you're not really able to propel yourself forward much, because if you're leaning this way and the hill's like here, you're almost it's almost like you're losing, a massive amount of energy. So the best thing for hills is to almost lean back a bit. I've read this as well, and I tried it out in some races, not the one on Tuesday, because I was just, I was running so hard on Tuesday that my form just went out the window completely, and I need to reevaluate that in, when I do my next race. But in my defence, I was being paced on Tuesday, so it was a bit of a learning curve, like getting to know running with someone else as well, because I've never done that before. So basically, when you're leaning into hills, I really think that it's best to have like a straight profile, but just have like a really slight lean back, because that will give you like a bit of an advantage. I'm not sure why. I have read this. I think it's something to do with gravity, but don't hold me to that. But yeah, have a straight profile, lean back, and also I learned this from the guy that was pacing me on Tuesday. I think it's a good idea to take really deep breaths when you're really feeling that kind of exhaustion up hills, because obviously, you know, your pace is going to drop slightly and you're going to feel like your perceived effort level is going to be higher. And it's good to take deep breaths anyway when running. I mean, I think, I thought that I was taking deep breaths racing, but when I raced on Tuesday, it was quite clear to me that I was taking shorter breaths because I felt like I wasn't out of breath, but every time I needed to take a breath, I was kind of a bit like, you know, just like, I wasn't gasping for breath, but I was a bit, I didn't sound as comfortable as some people around me. So I think I do need to work on the breathing as well. But a few things, people have asked me, they've messaged me on here and asked if I can do a video on breathing. So I might do that when I've done a bit of research, because obviously I'm not as expert on it as I thought I was. But basically, what helped me breathing wise, I used to go to a yoga class and we used to do breathing like from the stomach. So like I said in a few of my other videos, you really should be breathing like from here, whereas I'm sort of breathing, it feels like I'm breathing like from my chest. But if you breathe more like from your abdominals and, you know, your core area, you're like, if you breathe more from here, so when you breathe in and then you breathe out, it's like you're getting a more powerful breath, because you're getting a deeper breath, and it can actually, you know, help get you more oxygen and everything. But yeah, it just seemed to me like I was taking short breaths and they weren't working very effectively on Tuesday. I think it also, you need to take into consideration the conditions, because when I have run my PBs, especially in shorter races, the conditions have generally been, you know, quite good. They've either been cool or they haven't been that humid. But when you're dealing with humidity, I think you need to take into consideration that you might not, you know, run your fastest time, because if you're standing on the start line like I was on Tuesday and the sweat is literally dripping off your face like before you've even started the race, you know that you're going to be working really hard in the race and putting your body under quite a lot of strain. Anyway, one of the things that I also realised about hill running is that it can really adjust your form. So basically I picked up a minor injury, which thankfully is 80% better now, because I've got a marathon on Sunday, which I'm really looking forward to. And I was getting a bit, you know, dubious about whether I was going to be able to run that, but thankfully it's okay. But basically, all the injuries that I have had in the past have been on my left leg. So I had my femoral injury at the ball joint of my femur a good few years ago, and I had my metatarsal stress fractures in my foot 9 weeks ago and a few years ago. And also I picked up an injury on Tuesday, which was very strange. You can see slightly here how my knee is like a tiny bit red around here. So basically, my left leg is my lead leg. So if you don't know which your lead leg is, it's basically the leg that you take off on. So if you're standing on the start line, if you're standing in a kind of typical pose, so if I'm stood on the start line, I'm just trying to get some room, this really isn't ideal. If you're standing on a start line, your ideal pose is going to be your lead leg going forward and then it's your opposite arm going the same way, so your lead leg and your opposite arm, and then the other arm is back here. So if you're going for a sprint race, you want to get that kind of propulsion forward from this kind of stance. So that's how you can tell which your lead leg is, and it's no coincidence that my lead leg has been the leg that I have had all my injuries on. So basically I made an appointment with the physio who checked my knee area over. Obviously I did a bit of Google research, which can be a bit detrimental sometimes, because if you've got a minor injury, you start looking up knee injury and you start thinking that you've torn something and you're going to need surgery. So it's really best to seek expert advice if you don't know what you're dealing with, especially because I didn't, because knee injury, it's not something I've had to deal with in 9 years of running, so I had no experience in the area. But thankfully he checked my knee about and said there were no ligament or ligament tears or anything he could feel with the bone or the joint. So basically he just said it was an inflammation of the kneecap, which can happen when you're running up hills and down hills, at an intense speed. And because my body wasn't used to that, that's obviously why it's reacted in that way, and why it became very red and swollen and quite painful and stiff after the race. So basically I was just sensible and I swam last night instead of running, and I have also been applying this gel, which I'm sure you can get different variants of, but this one is called BioFreeze Pain Relieving Gel, and it works on cryotherapy, which is actually there's two different camps, schools of thought. I think I'm like some kind of thesaurus, because I'm a writer. When I'm talking, I'm trying to explain all this stuff. I'm trying to explain it in the best way. But if I say cryotherapy and I explain what there is, I will want to say 10 different words to kind of explain something, so you'll have to forgive me for that. But basically, yeah, this works on kind of cold therapy, so the kind of people thinking that coldness, like ice packs, and this kind of freeze gel, which has like a cooling sensation on the skin, instead of heat, because some people think that heat works as well. Kind of contradicted myself, because I went in the sauna last night after the pool, but I was religiously applying this. So you can pick this up at most places, and you just rub it in, and it has like a cooling sensation on the skin. And the active ingredient in this is I don't know how to pronounce this, isopropyl alcohol. So it basically says it's long-lasting pain relief for arthritis, sore muscles and joints and back pain. So you could use it to treat like different ailments, like once you're done with your injury. So anyway, that was just a short video on hill running and my experience, why I think you should build it into your schedule. I know that I certainly will be mixing up my schedule with a few things that I really should be doing to get the most out of my running, considering I'm not 30 yet, and I still don't think I've reached my peak in running. So I'm going to mix up my training schedule and add in some speed sessions and some hill sessions, and also I'm looking forward to running off-road soon, training sessions with my new pacing partner. So I'm sure I'll make some videos about how that goes, and since I have a new smartphone, I might be able to make some running videos in the woods too. Anyway, thanks for continuing to subscribe to this channel. I know that sometimes these videos can seem a bit dull and seem a bit, just my document of my own running, but I really didn't create this channel, to get 10,000 subscribers like some people do. It's really just to help people get into running and to inspire people to enjoy running as much as I do, and hopefully the 41 people that have subscribed so far are still finding them useful. Okay, I'll speak to you soon. Bye.